Welcome to Drone Business Made Easy. I'm really excited to introduce this new course and allow you guys to build up your own business. I've got a lot of people from the Part 107 course and any really other course on Pilot Institute that have been asking questions about how can they get started into the drone industry? Are there jobs available? What can be done? And how do you start a successful business? So this is exactly what this course is all about. I'm going to go into more details right now, talking about the introduction, the course in itself, why you should take the course, what I'm going to give you, what I'm not going to give you, and also how the course is organized. And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty and we'll get into all the information in here. So first off, why should you take this course? And there are several reasons. And the first one is if you want to start a drone business on a solid foundation rather than just on a whim. A lot of people just decide, hey, I've got a drone, I can make some money. Well, it's not really that easy. So we'll go over that whole process of how you research all that. Also, if you want to learn from someone who has created and managed successful businesses, that would be me. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself in a second. Also, I'm going to show you how you can define your business to determine what your target market is going to be, for example. I'm also going to show you how to analyze your competition and then sell viable drone services or drone products that are priced correctly so you can actually make a profit. All right, this is exactly why you're going into this business. You want to make some money. Also, I'm going to show you how to manage the day-to-day operation. I've managed large operation. I'm going to tell you more about this in a minute. So I'm going to give you some tips of how you can run a small business or even a large business. So the question is, why would you want to listen to me? Well, that's a good question. Well, I've managed and oversaw all the aspects of a business operation at a collegiate flight training operation that had more than 100 employees, 500 students, 50 aircraft, including creating and implementing a business plan for a satellite flight school. I created a school outside of the US, especially for the business that I was working for at the time. And so I've done this. I've been there before. I was also the president of a flight school. I managed 25 employees, 14 aircraft, and over 100 students. And I've been running my own aviation service business since 2014, which includes drone services and also drone training. And obviously, I'm the co-founder of the Pilot Institute and have been managing this business for a while. I'll tell you what I am not, because this is important. I am not a tax, copyright, business law, fill in the blank attorney. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a banker. And I'm also not going to be an investor in your drone business. Unless you have something really, really good, this is not something that I'm looking to do. I'll tell you a little bit of what I'm going to do in this course. And then I'll tell you also what I'm not going to do in this course, because it's important that we set the expectations from the beginning. I'm going to show you how to successfully research potential drone business opportunities out there. I want you to find out what is around you and see if there is a place for you to build your business. I'm going to help you answer a lot of questions. I'm going to give you a lot of questions that you're going to need to answer to yourself. And these questions are questions that you should be asking yourself before you start a business. Now, this course is specifically designed for drone businesses, but if you're building any kind of business, it's going to be pretty much the same concept. I've decided to make this business drone-centric, but anything related to aviation or anything in general is going to follow the same plan. I'm also going to show you how to create a successful business plan. Now, this is a step that a lot of people usually skip, and that's probably why a lot of businesses don't make it past a year, 2 years, 5 years, because they haven't thought about their business, thought about what it is that they're providing. So I'm going to show you how to create a business plan. And in the process, there's going to be a lot of questions that we're going to answer because of the business plan. So even if you don't want to write a business plan, and I don't recommend it, but if you decide that you don't want to do this formally and have a piece of paper, you still have to go through all the steps and think about them. So this course is still very important for you. I'm going to show you some legalese, I'm going to call them, involved in creating a business. I'm going to show you how you can create your LLC or a partnership, whatever it is that you want to create. I'm going to explain all these terms to you so you can understand them a lot better. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to successfully market your business. Now, this is a part that I could have one course, two courses, maybe even three courses about, because there's so much stuff about marketing. So I'm not going to give you all the possible tips about how you can market your business. I want you to take other courses that are specialized in this. I am not a marketer. I understand it very well. It's just that there's just so much information. So I'm going to give you quite a few tips, but this is not by any means just a marketing course for your drone business. I want you to understand this right now. Okay? Another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create important financial documents. Now, this is also something that a lot of businesses don't do and a reason why they fail. So I'm going to show you the main business documents, what they mean, how you read them, and how you create them so that you can figure out if you're going to make money, because that's what you're into, right? You want to make money at the end of this. I'm going to give you tips on how to run the day-to-day operation of your business. Again, like I said, based on my experience, I'm going to show you some tips, and that's towards the end of the course, of things that you should be doing, things that you should be paying attention to so your business doesn't go down the tube. I'm going to show you how to find customers and how to keep them. Now, there's a lot of different methods that you can find customers. This is very much like the marketing portion. I'm going to give you some good tips, but there's a lot of things that you're going to have to do with trial and errors. You're going to have to try things and see what works for you. There's not one shape fits all kind of approach to finding customers, because all of you are going to be doing different things in the drone world. And we'll talk about that in a minute. There's a lot of opportunities out there for doing stuff related to drones. Okay. The biggest thing about this course is I'm going to give you assignments throughout the entire course for basically creating your own business. Okay, this is not passive learning. This is not something where you're just going to sit, watch me, and then all of a sudden here's your drone business. You're going to have to do things. So I have a bunch of templates that you can download. I have a business plan template, and I'm going to give you assignments so you can fill out the business plan step by step. So I've designed this so it's made as easy as possible, so you can just follow the steps. Take a break when you need to, and then go back to the next section, and then eventually you'll be done with your business plan. All right? Now, what I'm not going to do, and this is important, okay? I'm not going to give you a rosy picture or unrealistic picture of the aviation industry in general or the drone industry as a whole, okay? This is not an easy business, okay? It may sound like it may look like it because you see other people doing it, but it is not. So I'm not going to tell you that you're going to make $1 million with your drone company because, well, it's probably not going to happen, okay? I'm not also going to tell you that you're going to make $200, $300, $400 an hour flying your drone. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it going to happen immediately? Probably not, okay? So I want you to be realistic. Again, I'm setting the expectation so we're all on the same page. And I'm also not selling you a dream. This course is designed to be realistic. At one point, you may look at this and be like, well, you know what? Maybe this is not for me. This is not something that I want to do. Now, this is definitely not the intent. I do not want you to give up, okay? You do not have to be an MBA in order to create a successful business, and I'm going to say that again in the future, but I don't want you to give up because I'm not giving you the rosy picture that you were expecting. Making millions, making 100, 200, 300 bucks an hour, probably not going to happen at first and may never happen, okay? Again, I'm going to be realistic with you. Another thing that I'm not going to do is I'm not going to teach you how to do your job, okay? I'm expecting that as a drone pilot, if you're getting into this business, you know how to do your job. I'm not going to show you how to take better pictures. I'm not going to show you how to edit videos in Premiere. I'm not going to show you how to do inspections, roof inspections. I'm assuming that you know how to do all these things, and that's the reason why you're going into the drone business and making money from it is because you have a certain set of skills, and we'll talk about skills in the future, okay? I'm also not going to do the research for you. There's a lot of variables out there depending on the type of business that you want to do. So I'm going to give you tips, questions. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions to answer to put you on the right track so that you can create your own business. But I'm not going to do the research for you, okay? Also, this is kind of important. I'm not going to review or provide feedback for your business plan. Please do not send me your business plan. It takes hours and hours to go over a business plan, understand it, find what works, what doesn't work. So this is way too much for the scope of this course. Unfortunately, I do not have the time to do this. So if you want help from others, then you can do it from the Facebook group that we have, and then you can get help there from other people if they're willing to help you, okay? Again, this is not something that I'm going to do on a one-by-one basis. Am I going to answer some of your questions? Absolutely, okay? This is what I'm here for. I'm here to help you, but I'm not going to go over your entire business plan. Let's do a reality check. The reality check is that having a small drone business, and I'm putting drone kind of in parentheses, having a small business is a tough undertaking, okay? This is not something that's easy. A lot of people, as a matter of fact, I think I read somewhere that it's over 90% of the businesses in this country are small businesses. Running a small business takes a lot of time, okay? You need to differentiate yourself from other people, as there's a lot of already established competition out there that are doing a lot of different things, especially in real estate, okay? This is the first thing that people want to do is fly drones for real estate. So I'm actually going to use this as an example throughout this entire course, but just know that there are people that have been out there doing this for a while, and if you're coming in, then you should have a good product. You should have something that's different than the other people so you can differentiate yourself, okay? Now, the good news is that this industry is growing. It's growing fast, and there's a lot more demand for drones these days than they were even a year ago or 2 years ago. A lot more businesses are using drones, and so there's a possibility for you to get in if you have the right set of skills or if you're willing to get the right set of skills. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Owning a small business and running a small business is hard work. You wear a lot of different hats. At one point, I'm going to go over your job description or a portion of your job description when you become a drone business owner. You're going to be a marketer, you're going to be a salesman, you're going to be a web designer, you're going to be an accountant, you're going to be a pilot, obviously, right? This is what you want to do. You're going to be an editor, potentially, a producer maybe. You're going to be your own personal assistant until you can get somebody else to do it for you. So there's a lot of different things, and this is just only a fraction of the things that you're going to do. You're going to need to put a lot of hours. You're going to need to get a certification. We'll talk about that. You're going to need to do market research. You're going to need to build your clientele. At one point, you're going to have to get authorizations to fly in the airspace. All of this takes a lot of time. At the beginning, there's going to be very little payback and potentially quite a bit of investment. So you have to think about these things. And again, these are questions that I'm going to help you answer and figure out how we can survive in this business. Now, what can you use your drone for? I get this question quite a bit. Potential clients that said, I want to get my Part 107 certificate, and we'll talk about that if you don't know what that is. And then what can I do with it? Well, you can do real estate, okay? There's a lot of real estate photography for private owners or for commercial buildings. There's drone photography, drone videography. You can do mapping, okay? Mapping is a lot of different things. Orthomosaic, you can do 3D models. You can work for a surveyor. Now, little note about being called a surveyor. In order to be called a surveyor, you have to have the certification issued usually by the state or by the federal government. So you have to make sure if you're going to put anything on your website that's going to say that you're a surveyor, you better be a surveyor, okay? There's a lot of stories out there on the internet of people getting in trouble for this. So if you're not a surveyor, do not say that you're doing surveys or survey grade anything. That's a very important thing. Just a small parenthesis here. You can do stuff in agriculture, okay? You can do plant health, for example. You can do looking at crops. You can do planting of trees, of seeds, or whatever it is. You can do inspections. You can do roof inspections. You can do power lines. You can do power plant, turbines. There's a lot of different things you can do in the inspection world. And finally, there's public safety. Now, public safety, firefighters, law enforcement, search and rescue, all these things are things that are done with drones these days. This list is not by any means exhaustive. Every single day, there's more and more industries that are using drones to do a lot of different things. You can count trees, for example, in agriculture. I forgot to put that one in here, okay? And then we have transportation, which is a big topic at the moment. A lot of companies are starting to get a certification to transport packages and various different things. And that's, again, another industry that's growing very fast. Now, this is something that's very important right here, and something that you have to remember, and I put it on its own because I really want to talk about this. The drone, quite often, is only going to be a tool to gather data, okay? The drone is a camera on a drone. The drone is a FLIR camera that's going to record all different types of data that later has to be analyzed. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. Once you have the data, then this is not the end of the day. Then you have to either find someone to analyze the data or analyze the data yourself if you have the skills required to do it, and then present it to your client. So there's a lot more than just flying a drone. Flying a drone is kind of the fun part, but then you have a lot of work to do after this. Now let's go ahead and talk about time management. Now, running a business is very little time actually spent performing your craft. And when I mean your craft is flying your drone, for example. It's going to be a lot of time spent running your business. All right, so you have to remember that. If you're going into this business to be flying a drone on a daily basis or hours after hours, then it's probably not going to happen. You're going to have to run the business at the same time, unless you hire someone to do this, in which case it's going to be a lot more expensive. Again, we'll get into those details in the future. Let's talk about your job description. Your job description is going to be, well, a lot of different things. You're going to have to find new clients. You're going to have to write quotes when you find those clients. They're going to ask you how much are things going to cost. You're going to have to create a marketing plan or marketing strategy, marketing campaigns for your business. You're going to have to prepare for your flights once you have the job, and you're going to have to make sure that the job is okay. So you're going to have to preview the job. You're going to have to get authorization in some cases. You may have to apply for waivers, okay? Then you have to create a whole bunch of documents for your company. You're going to have to create a SOP, standard operating procedures. You're going to have checklists, training documents, maybe if you get more pilots in the future that are going to fly for you. You need to fly your drone. Yeah, that happens once in a while. You have to go out there and fly your drone. Then you have to practice flying your drone. A lot of people don't realize that, but you may have a set of skills, but you have to improve those skills. Sometimes you have a job that's going to require a very specific flight, and you have to practice it beforehand. That may take hours just to get ready for that flight. And then when you get home, you have to analyze the data. We've talked about this already. You may have to edit your photos, edit your videos. You may have to analyze the photos if you're doing inspections, for example. If you have an infrared camera, then you're going to have to also look at that data and find out what's going on with the information that you collected. And then you're going to have to report it to your customers. And then you have to deal with customers, okay? Now, this is something that I think a lot of people don't realize is going to take a lot of your time. You may have customers that say, I want this, go and do it, bring it back, then you're done, okay? Those are perfect. Those are the kind of customers that you want to have all the time. In reality, that doesn't happen. You're going to have a customer that says, I want a shot of this building, okay? They don't really have an idea of what they want. So you go and fly and record some footage. And then you come back, present it to your customer, and they say, well, that's not really what I had in mind. Then you go back again, and then you go back again, and you go back again. And then eventually it's going to take a lot of time out of your day to have to go back and reshoot something that you could have gotten right in the first place if the customer had given you the right data, okay? So keep that in mind. Again, this is something that you're going to have to deal with, dealing with customers. Some customers are going to be happy. Some of them are not going to be happy. Then what are you going to do about it? You got to think about all these things. You're going to be looking at financial documents, and you're going to be making decisions based on these financial documents. You're going to have to pay bills. You're going to have to figure out if you're making money or if you need to raise your prices, okay? I'm going over this quite quickly because I want you to be somewhat overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that you have to do, because I want you to get the reality check here that you're not just going to be flying your drone. You're going to be doing much more than that. You're going to be managing a business, okay? Another thing that's important in your job description is reviewing the latest technology. We know that drone manufacturers love to come up with new drones all the time, new technology. Is it something that could be of interest to your business? Could it be a new business venture, a new offering for your business? Then you have to review the technology, and then you have to learn how to use it if you get the new technology. Let's say that you decide to get into the infrared industry, and you buy a new camera, and it has a beautiful FLIR camera on there with the infrared technology. Now you have to be trained on how to use it. You have to do testing. All these things are going to take time out of your day, okay? You're also going to have to keep up with the regulation. This is where I come in, and this is where I help you. I keep track of the regulation. I keep track of all the news and all the changes, and I actually put that on a weekly UAS news update every Friday, so you can actually find that on the YouTube channel. This is just a side plug, but this is important. You need to find out if the regulation is changing. You have no idea how many people come after 2 years and said, hey, has anything changed over the last 2 years? Well, maybe you should have worried about this before, because if something changed that was important, you don't want to wait until the test day, until you review for your test to find out if things have changed. You want to find out as you go so that you don't get in trouble flying your drone, okay? So, important. Then you may have to manage people. I don't know if you plan on having people in your team. If you do, then this is something that you're going to have to do. And then the last ticket item in here is everything else required to get the job done. And this is where there's a million tiny little things that are going to happen every single day that are going to be taking more of your time. All right? Do we get a good idea now of what all of this looks like, of the kind of endeavor that you're trying to get into? Okay, I hope that this is kind of eye-opening and hopefully you're ready for the challenge. I don't want you to give up by any means. I want you to be pumped with all the different things that you have to do and how you're going to do them. Before we get into more details, we have to talk about licensing requirements. In order to fly as a commercial pilot, for commercial purposes with a drone, then you have to get an FAA remote pilot certificate from the FAA. You may know it as Part 107. You may have heard that term before. You may have heard people say commercial drone pilot, Part 107 pilot. This is all the same thing. The FAA calls it remote pilot. So that's the official word. Now, in order to get the certificate, you have to pass an FAA written exam at an approved testing facility. The exam is 60 questions. You have to get at least 70% of correct answers in order to get that certificate. There's a lot of different topics that are covered in there: regulation, airspace, weather, charts, decision-making, airport operation, radio communication. Those are the main topics that are going to be covered. This has to also be renewed every 2 years with the FAA. You have to take another test every 2 years, another written exam. Now, the good news is after 2 years, the test is only 40 questions and there are fewer topics that you're going to be tested on. You still have to do this every 2 years if you want to maintain the privileges of being a commercial drone pilot, a remote pilot. The good news is, well, we have a course for that. There's an app for that. There's a course for that called Part 107 Made Easy. We've trained thousands and thousands of pilots on how to do this. This is by far the most comprehensive course that you can find online today. 12.5 hours of course content, of videos just like this, same format that you can follow at your own pace. There's 250 practice questions in there with all the explanations as well to all the questions. Unlimited practice exam. We have a flashcard that you can actually download and have 120 flashcards that you can see on your desktop, on your mobile device. And then we have a cheat sheet, 11-page cheat sheet. And more importantly, you can go at your own pace, anywhere in the world, on really any device. You can watch all these videos and get certified for the remote pilot. There's lifetime access, and I'm here to answer all your questions. I'm the person teaching this course. I'm a certified instructor, and you know that you get the correct answer when you ask a question. We're so confident with this course that we'll give you your money back and pay for your retest if you fail the exam after taking our course. So far, over 99% of our customers have passed the written exam with flying colors, so there's no reason why you can't do that and be successful. Before we get started, we're going to go over a bunch of questions. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm going to ask you to think about this business. The first thing is, before we get started, you need to do a lot of brainstorming. Before we go into just turning on the key and start selling our services to people, then we have to think about all this stuff. Now, business don't happen overnight. This is going to require some planning, some research. So give yourself ample time to do this. And you can do this every day, a little bit at a time if you have a full-time job at the moment. Or if you don't, then you can go full speed ahead and then start working on your business plan. Now, don't be intimidated. I know my intro was, again, I'm trying to be realistic, but don't be intimidated. You do not have to be a business expert to start something successful, okay? You do not have to have an MBA. You just need to make sure that you go through all the steps. So here's a bunch of questions that you need to ask yourself before you get started. And the first one is, what are you good at? What is the thing that you are really good at? What are your friends telling you, wow, this is really awesome what you did with the drone? Okay, you need to ask that for yourself because this is likely where you're going to succeed. This is likely where you're going to be very successful, is doing something that you're good at. Do you have expertise in any areas that utilize drones that I've mentioned in the past? Or are you just good at taking photos, taking videos? You get a good eye for photography. You've been doing this on the ground for a long time. Now you want to add drones to the business, okay? Remember that your clients want to see an amazing product, and this is what is going to get them to buy your product, is when they see it and they realize that, well, this guy knows what he's doing. He's an expert, okay? Just because you're seeing someone out there succeeding with drones doesn't mean that you will be succeeding yourself, okay? Just because you see Joe Blow out there, wow, he's got a drone business, he drives a cool car, and he's got a bunch of employees, well, you don't really know how that person got there. You don't know their background, you don't know what they did before, and maybe they had expertise that you didn't know about, okay? So think about that and keep that in mind. Now, if you really want to get into a specific business, but you don't have the experience, then my recommendation to you is to keep practicing. Now, this sounds like a no-brainer kind of advice, but you'd be amazed how many people just decide, hey, I'm going to go into power line inspection. Never seen a power line in my life up close, but I'm going to go and do inspections because I see people doing this online. Well, power line inspection, what you don't realize is that once you get up there, there are certain things that you need to take pictures of, and you need to have a general understanding of how power lines actually work if you want to take the right pictures for your client. All right. So I think this is a perfect example right here of something that, well, if you don't have any expertise, get the expertise and then start your business. Some other questions for yourself. What are some of your strengths? What are some of your weaknesses? And how is this going to affect you on a day-to-day operation? All right? I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and when I start a business, if I start a business, then I know that either I need to find someone that's going to complement my weaknesses, or I need to find a way to get those weaknesses out of the way, or make sure that they're not going to impede on my progress with the business. Another thing that's important is, do you have the time to dedicate to the business early on? You may be part-time at the moment, thinking that you can start this business part-time, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people start businesses part-time and then eventually build them up and then eventually quit their job and go and do this full-time because it was successful. So think about the amount of time that you have available at the moment. Also, think about, is your family on board with this? Do you have kids? Do you have a family? Do you have a wife? Or are you by yourself? And then the answer is pretty simple. But you have to think about this, and you have to make sure you'll get the support from your family. Nothing worse than starting a business and then realizing that it's eating up all of your time, and then your family resents you for it. And the last one that I put in here is think about your business mentors, okay? Think about the people that you like in business that are successful, and think about why they're successful. What are some of the traits that they have that appeal to you? And what do you think that you can mimic from their business in order to yourself be successful? The next question we need to talk about is, how much capital do you have available? And actually the question should be rephrased like this. How much capital do you have to risk? Because this is essentially what's happening. You're going to go into business, you're going to invest some of your money, and at one point, if the business doesn't do well, then you risk losing all the investment that you put in. So how much capital, how much money do you have available to risk putting into this business? Now, this term risk is something that you need to get familiar with. If you've taken my Part 107 course, you already know about risk and hazards, which is a slightly different application, but you need to know about risk. You need to understand if you're willing to take a certain amount of risk and what is the reward at the end of taking that amount of risk. Now, some people go into this and say, well, I've got a drone, I can get going because that's all I need. Not entirely true. At one point, you're going to need to get insurance. You're going to need to get licensing costs. You're going to have to pay someone to take a ground school like ours and then pay for the test, $160 at the moment. You need business licenses. These are going to cost you some money. You need to have marketing. That's going to cost you some money as well. So there is some upfront cost that you're going to have, and you have to take that into account when you get started with this business. The next question, and that's kind of a big one, and I'm going to help you understand and answer that question over time as we go through this course. And it's, is there a demand for your set of skills? All right? Are you a real estate photographer? You're really good at doing photography, doing it with a drone, and you want to go into real estate photography. Is there a lot of people doing this locally as it is? Well established. The realtors are not looking to find another person. Or is there no one doing it in your town and you're going to be the one man standing out there just doing it by yourself? Is there demand nationally? Do you have an idea for a business, a drone business that can be done nationally? Is there other people doing it as well? Is there a demand for it? Are people asking for this kind of service? And are you willing to travel? I live in a smaller town. And in my small town, it's actually fairly difficult to get drone business started because a lot of people think the good old way. They're kind of afraid of drones. Okay, and this was a couple of years ago. It's a lot better now. But at first, when I started this, I had to travel. I had to go to other places. I had to go to Phoenix, bigger city, to find jobs and to do things with my drone. So think about all these things. I've said this before, but is there already a lot of competition available out there? I'm going to show you in the course how to find about your competition, find out who they are, what they do, and then where you fit in terms of the competition. Another important question is there a possibility for growth and expansion? Or are you going to be in a small town where there's only so many people that you can reach to, and this is where your business is going to be, which is fine, okay? Growth and expansion is not always necessary for a business to succeed. If you have all the business that you need where you are, then in some cases, it's okay. And this is kind of a big question here, and you need to start asking this question to yourself is what makes you different than your competition? We're going to come back to this in the future, but you have to understand what is it that makes you better than everybody else? Or what product are you offering that nobody else is offering? Let's talk about your future business a little bit. You already have an idea. Obviously, you're right here. You have something in mind that you want to do. So what are you going to specialize in? And I think the biggest thing that I see from people starting businesses is that they are way too broad. They want to do everything. Now, remember when your customer is looking at your website and they see all these things that you're offering, there's very little chance that they're going to say, oh, this guy is an expert at everything. Unless you have a big company that has a lot of different pilots with different expertise. If you're just starting, pick something that you're really good at and then that you're specializing in, and then just do that, okay? Don't be too broad. Over time, you can build your skill and then you can add more services and then eventually grow your business, all right? This will help you a lot with your initial investment and also making sure that you focus on exactly what it is that you're good at. The next question is, what kind of equipment do you have? Obviously, you're here. More than likely, you have a drone. And what kind of drone do you have? Do you have a small entry-level drone? Do you have what I call a prosumer drone, something a little bit bigger with a good camera? Or do you have a very large, very specific drone that you've been using for a while? So the equipment is important now. The equipment is not everything. Here's a saying that we have in photography. The best camera is the one that you have. The best camera is the one that you have. The best drone at the moment is the drone that you have. Some people have the equipment fever. They always want to get the latest and greatest. In some cases, it makes sense because it's going to apply to your business and it's something that you can utilize with the business. I see a lot of people out there just flying the P4P, the Phantom 4 Pro from DJI. Just works just fine, older drone, several years old, or even flying the Mavic 2, okay? Whatever you have at the moment is probably going to be enough until you make enough money that you can upgrade. Now, some jobs, don't get me wrong, will require some additional equipment, some very specific equipment, sometimes expensive. You've got infrared technology, you get NDVI. NDVI is something that you're going to use for plants. You've got LiDAR, really expensive, okay? Now, these require a lot of investment, but the jobs associated with these kinds of drones usually have a higher payback, so you'll be making more money even though you invested more money. Remember what I said about risk? You got to take a risk in order to get the reward. At the moment, there are a lot of jobs that are available just with prosumer drones. You can get started and make money by using just an entry-level prosumer. The Mavic 2, the P4P, all these are great drones to get started. Skydio, for example, is also another one, or the Parrot, and all these are great drones that you can get started with. Before you go all crazy, you just got inheritance from grandma, whatever it is, and you've got a bunch of money you're sitting on, and you want to buy an expensive drone. Just wait. Just wait until we're done with this process, until you can find out if using that drone is going to yield any kind of money. We'll talk about return on investment throughout the course. This is something that's important. You don't spend $50,000 on a drone if you are not going to make that money back and pay off the drone. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense, because this is something that's kind of critical to running a business. The next question I have for you is, do you have a portfolio? Okay. And the portfolio means you have something that you are going to showcase to your clients. Now, if you're in photography, if you're in mapping, in videography, and even in inspection, you may have already pictures that you've taken, okay? Build up your portfolio. Find your best work. All different types of work of wide variety is going to look better to your customer, and then create a slideshow. If you're into videography, create a demo reel, something that's going to show what you're capable of. This is what the customer wants to see. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing. The customer usually, in most cases, not always true, usually doesn't really care about the kind of drone that you have, okay? Because they don't know drones. All they want is a footage. They want a final product. You can tell them, I have this fancy drone. You can even bring it to the meeting. But at the end of the day, if you have a fancy drone and you can't use it, then it's going to do no good to the customer, okay? So show what you're capable of. Remember your skills. What are you an expert at? Display that to your customer. And again, we'll come back to this in the future when we talk about your website, how to create your website and what you should showcase on there. If you're in public safety, talk about who you've been working for and who you've been working with, the kind of projects that you've been involved with, and that's your portfolio, all right? So this is important. Well, if you don't have a portfolio, that's fine. We'll figure out a way to build one. Go out there and practice. Do jobs for free. Go talk to your friends. Maybe they're business owners and they need videography of their business to create a promo. Practice, okay? Build up your portfolio over time. Now remember, if you're going to do this, you have to be licensed. You have to have that Part 107 certificate. The FAA is very clear about this. It doesn't matter if you're not making money flying your drone. You have to have the Part 107 in order to do anything that is not for recreational purposes. If you go and fly for your friend for free to promote his business, even though it's free, you're not flying for fun, you're not flying for recreational purposes, you're flying for business purposes, kind of, and then that's going to require the Part 107. It's a very simple process. It's going to take you a little bit of time, but in the end, it's going to save you a lot of headaches if something happens during your flight. Now you're going to say, well, I'm fairly new to this and I don't have a whole lot of experience, but I really want to get into this business. What should I do? Well, you can build your experience. There's a lot of ways you can build your experience. One, you can work for somebody else and learn from them. There are drone businesses out there that have been established, that are looking for pilots. Go out there and get a job with them. Learn the business. Learn the behind the scene. How does it look? What is your boss doing to be successful? Learn from them before you can run on your own. You can become a contractor for a company like Drone Up or Drone Base. Now these companies have contracts with individuals out there, and then they put out the jobs for people to get. You're a drone pilot, you're just a contractor kind of, and you're going to see those jobs, you're going to bid on it, and you're going to say, yep, I want to do it, and then you go and fly the mission. I did a lot of this when I first started because that was a good way for me to own my skill, understand how this business worked and the kind of deliverables that the clients wanted, and then how to do it. So this is a great way to get started. It doesn't pay a whole lot of money, okay? But if you're doing this part-time, guess what? It's just additional money that you can put in the bank. Don't spend it. In the bank so you can get a better drone and then get your business started, okay? This is not beer money. Some people call it beer money. This is seed money, something that you're going to use to start your business. Another thing that you can do to build experience is to enroll in the class that's related to something that you're interested in. You're doing this right now. You're interested in building the business, you bought this course and you're watching it, and this is a way to learn more skills, to get more skills. You want to learn about inspections, then find a class that's going to do inspections. Find a local flying club so you can go and fly with other people, learn from them. You'd be amazed how much you learn by watching other people fly and just asking questions for them. Take a business class. If this is something that interests you, go to the community college, go online and find a business class that's of interest. Again, you've done part of this by joining my class. This is by no mean a full class and the only class that you need. This is not the class, okay? If you want more information about a specific topic, go out there and take a class on how to do this. Maybe it's accounting, okay? I know it sounds boring, but this is some skills that you need to have to run your business. Another thing that you can do is get a license, an industry-specific license. Do you want to work with maps? Then get your GIS license. Become a surveyor. You want to do inspections? Get a roof inspection. Work with the electrical company in order to do inspections of electrical poles, for example. All right? So all these things are important and things that you can add to your portfolio. The more licenses, the more experience you have, the better you're going to look to your customers. And the last thing cannot be understated. Practice, practice, practice. You got to go out there, you got to fly your drone, and you got to be comfortable flying your drone. All right? Until you get to that point, don't think about starting a business. Fly, 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 become comfortable, and become good at what you do. Another question that comes up quite a bit from people is, should I do this full-time? Should I quit my job? Or can I do this part-time? You can do it part-time. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of people start their business part-time and then eventually make money on the side. I did this, okay? This is how I started, did it part-time, just building up, and then eventually moved to do this full-time. Now here's a tip. Before you go full-time, make sure that you have enough money saved in case something happens to your business. Before you go full-time, make sure that you've done this for a while, that you understand how the business works. If there is an up month or a down month, you may be making a lot of money in the summer. You just started this, business is booming, everything is awesome, except right around the corner, what do we have? Well, we have fall, which may be really nice, and we have winter. In winter, you may not have as many customers, depending on what you do. This is a business that relies on being outside, that relies on the weather, okay? So depending on where you live in the country, then there may be a time of year where you're going to be down. So if you do this for 3 months, everything is going great, you're making money, and you're like, wow, I can go full time. And then you go full time, winter hits, and then you don't have a job. So you got to think about those things. All right? Have enough money saved for rainy days, and also make sure that you can do this on a yearly basis. All right, is your head hurting yet? Hopefully not. This is just the beginning. This is just the introduction. What I want to do next is I want to tell you about how the course is actually organized, okay? A lot of the questions that we have in here, those are not questions that you necessarily need to answer immediately, okay? We're going to go into the business plan eventually, and we're going to talk about all the questions again. Some of them we're going to see again in more detail. I'm going to give you more information. So don't get overwhelmed just yet. Start thinking about all these things, all right? Go for a run if that's what you do. That's what I do. I go for a run and I think about things, okay? Whatever it is that you do to think about all your thoughts in your head, then just go ahead and do that. Now, let's talk about how the course is organized. And this course is actually fairly simple. It's organized into 3 sections. The first one is going to be researching your business and creating your business plan. Now, these are kind of all into one, all right? As you go through the videos in the next few sections, I want you to go ahead and go through the steps, the homework of basically building your business plan. When we're done with this, I'm going to go over and show you how to actually set up your business. This is hands-on. We're going to go ahead and create a company. We're going to go ahead and either hire someone to do a website or create the website ourselves. We're going to go ahead and think about our marketing campaign. We're going to create our social media accounts. All this is all hands-on, okay? But this happens after the business plan, and you'll understand why. Don't go out there just yet and buy a domain name. Don't go out there and create an LLC. If you've done it already, then it's too late. You can't go back. But just wait to go through the process, and when I tell you to do it, then go ahead and do it. The reason is because we need to think about a lot of different things before we pick a name, before we pick a website, before we create social media accounts, all right? So just be patient for a little bit, and then we'll get to that point, okay? And then the last part of the course, I'm going to give you tips on how to manage the business. Now, these tips, Over time, you're going to realize that things are happening, and I'm going to give you tips on how to deal with that, okay? And that's based on my years of experience managing businesses in all different types of businesses, small and big, all right? So next up is the create a business plan section. This is the meat of the course. There's going to be a lot of information in there. So take your time, go step by step, and I'll see you in the next section.